is that as we came into this conference, I would say that really this conference has been held at the backdrop of, to me, four significant things. One of them is being the COVID-19 pandemic. At COVID-19, the world was able to know what global crisis means and how to respond to it. And also we've seen potential behavior of nations when it comes to global crisis. And I think especially from coming from the South, the states came into this meeting knowing that when eventually all the climatic projections that we're making now become a reality, what it will really mean. Because the behaviors or the different ways through which nations have managed COVID crisis really shows what it means when push comes to shove. And the other thing that was also significant is that we are holding COP. This is COP26. COP26 means that it's 5 years since COP21, which set out the now very famous Paris Agreement. And COP26, because the Paris Agreement adopted what we call a ratchet mechanism that then required states that after every 5 years they will ratchet up their ambitions. So it means that this was really the first opportunity for nations to revise their ambitions. So the nationally determined contributions that had been developed by different countries, this was the first time that they needed to be revised. And so COP26 then became very significant. But the other thing was that this is 2021. 2021 means that the commitments taken for climate finance in Copenhagen in 2009 was that by 2020, the world or the developed nations needed to have met a target of 100 billion USD to support the developing countries to respond to climate change through mitigation and adaptation. So 2021 then becomes the year immediately where after the target year of 2020. And as we have had the conversations in this conference, really that fell short. But 2021 then is a year that we needed to have managed that. But to me, the third thing then was the IPCC report, that we came into this conference just few months after the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a report. And this report gave a picture of how things are looking like. And this is the physical evidence, the physical science evidence of climate change, which told us that if the ambitions remain currently based on the different nationally determined contributions that have been put by governments, then we are headed to at least to hit that 1.5 that we have set not to hit, and that we're likely actually to be at 2 degrees by the next 2 decades. And so that report then showed that we really need to have ambitions and that governments really needed to ratchet their ambitions. So to me, these 4 things then really put the pressure, if I would say so, on this conference to deliver things that then will respond to those things. But then as we came into this conference again, it of course started with the 2 days of Leaders Summit, and we had different people speak into it. And we had world leaders who spoke to different things. I think to me, most outstanding was the Barbados Prime Minister, Motley, who really pushed us and helped us to reflect on the people. I think she was saying, what are we going to tell our people? The people from the small island states who are experiencing the difficulties of these extreme weather events. What it is about the people, because the discussions have been about economies, it's been about different things, but really we are talking about the people. There is just a moral compass that needs to guide us into why are we doing what we are doing? We're just acknowledging that God created us and put us in this earth, and that this earth has got finite resources that then we have to utilize in a way that considers our neighbors, that we know that our actions in one part of the world impacts other people in the other parts of the world. And so it speaks into our morality, it speaks into our compassion, why we need to respond with compassion. Climate finance has really taken has been a real discussion in the rooms in this conference. And some of the things around climate finance, of course, one is meeting those commitments that the developed countries committed to raise this 100 billion USD, and up to now it's not been met. And I think the earliest now, the earliest it can be met now is 2023. And so there have been really the discussions of why are we taking commitments that we cannot honor? How are we going to trust that we are having global solidarity in responding to this crisis if these commitments taken 12 years ago have not been met to date? But again, another issue around climate finance has been the appropriation of the finance, that there needs to be parity between mitigation and adaptation. So the developing world are more concerned about adaptation. They want to build the resilience of their communities so that their adaptive capacity is raised. The developed world, of course, are more concentrated on mitigation, but there is need for balance of that. Currently, adaptation fund is only 25%, and yet there are a lot of variabilities in these states, and so there is need to ensure that the climate finance is appropriated evenly between mitigation and adaptation. But again, related to that, there have been issues to do with losses and damages, that there are states that keep on and actually are borrowing money to build their infrastructure, but these extreme weather events come to sweep this investment away. So the losses that are incurred in relation to the climatic disasters needs also to be considered, and there is an urge to either write off some of these loans or be able to compensate, if we will use that word, but it's really indemnity because you've already put the infrastructure and then they are swept away. So just to have a mechanism through which losses that are experienced through these extreme weather events are taken care of. And in mitigation, there have been lots of discussions, the different ways of cutting emissions. But I think, to me, what has also been quite contentiously discussed here is the transition from the use of fossil fuel to green energy or the clean energy. And there has been there, because as we know that, again, fossil fuel has been the driver behind the many engines of different economies. And there are all nations which are depending on funds from their financing from fossil fuels, and there are those that are really depending on fossil fuel to run their industries. And so this discussion has been that we really need to shift. So this big shift from fossil fuel to renewable energy has been a discussion, of course still opposed by some, but still we've got also significant number of countries signing up to move to shift their investment and to remove the incentives on fossil fuel, and to be able to really to explore the renewable energy as their main source of energy. But also that those people who have been depending on in this industry will be transitioned to other jobs, and also as we transition the industries to more renewable sources. And so I think this has been a discussion there that we also want to take forward to see how we then clean up the energy sector. And of course, transport is part of it, contributing 10% of the current emissions. So the issue of clean transport has been here and has been discussed a lot. The young people are concerned, and that this is really an existential threat to humanity, and that there need to be decision, because failure to act will only mean that young people will be left with a world where resources are depressed, the populations are high, and it will be difficult to manage. So young people really want to have decisions made, actions taken now to avert this crisis, because we do not want to be left with the baggage of trying to clean up things that we are not responsible. At least the world is in consensus that we are having a crisis. The science has been clear about it, and as a church also we are putting our best foot forward to be part of the solutions to this, and that this issue is a nature issue. And as people of faith who believe in the story of creation, is that God placed us here to coexist with the rest of nature, and that the climate crisis we are experiencing now, we need its solutions, and we need its solutions within nature-based. And that's why Together with the biodiversity laws, we consider climate change this as between crises we are experiencing today. Thank you, and thank you very much. We'll continue this conversation, and we'll continue sharing of our experiences and also of the things that we are doing going forward. Thank you.